All right, Larry Krueger here at Levi's Stadium for a little 49er video. Of course, we're brought to you by Pig It Up, Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And the Krug Show is also partnered with Underdog Fantasy this football season. Underdog Fantasy gives fans a way to play alongside your favorite football team all season long. Check out their weekly Pick'em players where you pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on their game stats. You can win 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, but you can win real money. I'm going with Brock Purdy to have a big game against the Browns this week. You can enter the same as me, or you can make your own picks. Sign up using the link in the description and the promo code KRUG. Use it, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to $100. All right, let's recap the day that was here in Santa Clara on this Thursday as the 5-0 49ers get ready to travel to Cleveland to take on the Browns, who have the number one defense in the NFL, led by Myles Garrett up front and Denzel Ward on the backside. So, couple notes. First of all, Joel Bitonio, who's one of the better guards in the league, is out with a knee injury, so he's not going to play in this game. Deshaun Watson will not play either. Watson's got a shoulder injury, so P.J. Walker is going to start at quarterback for the Browns. Now, a couple notes from down here in Santa Clara today. George Kittle says he expects to be fined for wearing the FU Dallas T-shirt last Sunday night under his pads, but he says it was worth it and that he would do it again. You got to love Kittle, and good for him. Good for him. I mean, once again, the NFL, the no fun league, they should be playing up these rivalries and trying to have more guys doing things like that. Instead, they're like, oh no, we can't have that. We're going to fine you. So George expects to be fined, but he'll pay the fine, and he says he'll do it again. Fred Warner, by the way, only needs 2 tackles to pass NaVorro Bowman for 4th place on the 49ers franchise history tackles list. Fred just playing at a very, very high level right now. Steve Wilkes told us that in some ways, in his mind, Fred Warner's the leader of the entire team. Warner, by the way, is 276 total tackles behind Patrick Willis for that number one spot on the 49ers franchise all-time list in tackles. So he'll probably get there. It's going to take a couple years, but he's going to get there. He's probably going to pass P. Willis. So on the injury front, Elijah Mitchell was back at practice today, a very good sign. Mitchell's got a knee injury that he hurt a couple weeks ago in a Thursday practice. This is the first time in 2 weeks that he's been out there practicing. So that's probably an indication that he's good to go. That's a very good sign for the 49ers because Elijah Mitchell's a terrific football player. Aaron Banks is battling a shoulder injury, but he practiced. He was limited on Wednesday, but he was a full participant today at practice. Also, Dre Greenlaw did not practice yesterday or today. He's got a hamstring injury, and as sure as I'm sitting here, I think Greenlaw will go Sunday against the Browns. I mean, he's in that category right now where he doesn't really need to practice. He's a game day guy, and he uses the week to kind of heal up his body from all the collisions that he has on Sundays. So didn't practice yesterday, didn't practice today, but you can almost bank that he's going to go on Sunday. 49ers, by the way, are a 10-point favorite over the Browns. The Niners this year are 4-1 against the spread. You take away the Sean McVay late field goal that the Rams had for whatever reason, who knows why, and the Niners would have been 5-0 against the spread. They're not only 5-0 on the schedule, they'd be 5-0 against the gamblers' number. Instead, they're 4-1. Randy Gregory practiced today, second practice for the 49ers' newest defensive end. He was out there on the field getting pointers from Nick Bosa, which is always a good thing because Bosa is an instructional video on how to play defensive end. And Randy Gregory, for all of you guys who bought the Trey Lance 5 jersey, now you don't have to get rid of the jersey. If you can just get the Lance part taken off the back and put Gregory on the back, you've got a Randy Gregory jersey because Gregory's going to wear 5. Interesting note, 49ers today worked out a punter, Matt Hack, who kicked at who's a punter from ASU. He's a left-footed punter. You say, well, wait, don't they love Mitch Wishnowsky? Didn't they invest a high pick in Wishnowsky? Isn't Wishnowsky one of the better punters in the league? He is, and they did. But the bottom line here is that Cleveland's punter, Corey Bajorquez, is a left-footed punter. And so the 49ers brought in Matt Hack today to try to give their punt returner, Ray McLeod, just some better looks. You know, there's a different rotation on the ball from a right-footed punter as opposed to a left-footed punter. And it kind of goes to show that the 49ers will spend anything they need to spend and plan accordingly to try to get their guys to have the best preparation possible to win games on Sundays. So I'm sure it costs some money to have Hack come in and so on and so forth. And somebody had to make the plan. Somebody had to come up with it. Somebody had to fly him in or set him up for accommodations. And the 49ers are like, you know what? If it makes Ray a better punt returner on Sunday, we're all for it. So it's little things like that make winning teams winning teams. Had a chance to go in the locker room and talk to some of the players today. I did an extended interview with Colton McKivitz. Check that out on YouTube. McKivitz told me that he's really familiar with Zadarius Smith, from joint practices last year. The Niners and Vikings last year practiced together, and Zadarius was a Viking at that point. And I asked Colton, I said, do you get more of a look when you practice against a guy in a joint practice situation than you do in a game or even watching film? And he's like, yeah, you do. You get a much better sense for what they like, what they don't like when you get all those reps in joint practices. So just another positive attribute of joint practices. And Colton says that, he feels like he'll be prepared. Now, I asked him, does Garrett and Zadarius switch sides? And he says, yeah, they do, but he expects Myles Garrett to basically line up on that defensive right side and go against Trent Williams most of the day on Sunday. He may see a couple of snaps against Garrett, but he's more likely to see Zadarius Smith, and he feels comfortable knowing that, he's got some of Smith's tendencies down from practicing against him last summer. And then to conclude, we had a chance to hear from Steve Wilkes, who talked up Diamador Lenore, really had good things to say about Fred Warner, said that he really trusts the players, and that's why he played more man in the second half against Dallas and didn't want to give away what he was going to do this week. We talked to Chris Forster, the O-line coach, and Forster indicated that Christian McCaffrey basically didn't want to come out of the game. And it was kind of interesting. He pointed out that he didn't want to come out of the game because he wanted to stay in the game. He wanted to bust a touchdown run. But he also didn't want to come out of the game because he didn't want the refs to think that he had been concussed after the big hit that he took. And that's a big part of this thing as well, is to have to convince the refs that you're physically okay. So that was part of the gamesmanship that was going on there last week. And then lastly, we got a chance to talk to Brock Purdy. And Purdy said two really interesting things. I got a chance to ask him a couple questions today. And I asked him, how important is it for him to huddle with his receivers between series? I think the cameras caught him talking with Ray McLeod, not in this last game, but the game before against Arizona after a series. And he said he thinks it's vital, just to be able to talk things through, what you're seeing, what he's seeing, and to, the whole thing about a quarterback and his wide receivers is you have to be on the same page. If you're both wrong, you're both right. You know what I'm saying? If you're both right, you're both right. But if you're both wrong, you're both right. So in other words, it doesn't really matter as long as you're on the same page as your wide receivers. And he said that he does like to use the time between series to huddle with Ayuk, Debo, Ray, Kittle, any of his receivers on what he's seeing, maybe ball placement in a certain play. And that kind of dialogue he thinks is invaluable to keeping the kind of continuity of what they're doing and staying basically on the same page, is keeping that dialogue in game. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then I asked Brock, I said, hey, look, you're having a lot of success. How do you keep that edge? I said, do you play the game with a chip on your shoulder? And how do you maintain that edge in the midst of all this success that you're having? And he kind of admitted that he does play with a little bit of a chip. And then he kind of pointed out that Kyle Shanahan and Brian Griese are great at constantly challenging him to be a little bit better, incremental improvement, so that they're never 100% satisfied. You seek perfection, and in the process, you improve. And he indicated that Greasy's a big part of that Shanahan's a big part of that they're constantly challenging him to be a little bit better, a little bit better in every phase. I'm sure, from reading coverages to ball placement to every other nuance that there is to playing the quarterback position. So an interesting day down here in Santa Clara. 49ers trying to run it to 6-0, and they'll have that opportunity on the field Sunday in Cleveland against the Browns and their number one defense. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy. It's in the link is in the description, and use that promo code Krug, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to $100. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.